Hello, welcome to week 4 of organized crime. Keep in mind, this is the week your midterms are due. They're already out there. You've got all week to work on them. My suggestion is that you spend a little bit of every day this week working on that midterm. It's not a project that you can afford to wait until the last minute to start. If you're waiting until Saturday night, Sunday night to get started on it, you're not going to get it done. You're not going to be able to do a decent job of it. So that's that. I think I may have told you guys before. I know I told my residential students this type of take-home exam, the real test is how well you take the information and apply it to the question. Even in instances where the answers are right there in the book, and really the answers for all these questions are in the book, but they may not be in just one place in the book. So when you're looking in the book for answers, for information you want to include in your responses to the test question, don't just look in one place and say, "Oh, I found the answer," and write about that. The correct answer may require you to synthesize information from different parts of the book. And keep in mind also that if you're just telling me what the book says, in most cases, that's average. That's the minimum. That's a C. And you may think, well, C, what did I do wrong? Did I just got? Well, no, you didn't do anything wrong to get a C. You just gave me average work, and a C is average. C is passing, average. If you want a B, you need to incorporate information from both lecture and the book where appropriate. And then the exceptional, because an A is an exceptional answer. An exceptional answer is synthesized information not just from the book and lecture, but from outside sources. And then those outside sources are properly cited as well. An outside source doesn't mean that you use Dr. Roth's citations out of his textbook either. That means you go find your own. Okay, on to this week's material. I'm going to try to keep it brief this week, just because I want you concentrating on the final. But you need lecture is important. It's an important part of classroom learning, important part of online learning. So we're going to do lecture. Try to keep it brief. Of course, my residential students will tell you when I say I'm going to try to keep it brief, that's usually a bad sign that I'm not. But we'll try anyway. For the Chapter 7, for the Business of Organized Crime material, there's just a couple of things I want to talk about. But I kind of want to go a little bit into, talk just a little bit about labor racketeering, a little bit about loan sharking. Labor racketeering and loan sharking, just a little bit about those things, just to supplement what's in the book. Starting with labor racketeering. One definition that I have of labor racketeering is one source I use. Define labor racketeering is the infiltration and or control of a union or employee benefit plan through illegal, violent, or fraudulent means. And that's a pretty good definition for labor racketeering. This is traditionally a power base, and for La Cosa Nostra. It is a great source of income for them. It is a great source of power for them, and it is labor racketeering enables them not just to make money, but labor racketeering gives them political power, gives them control over a particular market. Controlling labor racketeering construction allows the mafia to control the construction industry. We talked about how after the destruction of World War II in Sicily, how the mafia used its control of business contracts and took advantage of the need for reconstruction in Palermo controlling everything. And labor racketeering is a way in the United States that the La Cosa Nostra in America uses to gain control of the construction industry. Control of, what should we list? Some of the labor unions that the mafia are involved in include the Teamsters, include the Hotel Employee and Restaurant Employers International Union, which allows the mafia control of hotels and restaurants. Mafia has a large amount of control in the Independent Laborers Association, the ILA, which is the old name. The new name is the International Longshoremen's Union, or maybe that's what they used to be called. I get those two mixed up sometimes. They control Laborers International, Union of North America. And again, these unions, like control hotel employee and restaurant employees, allows them to control restaurants. The Teamsters, control the Teamsters. This is like the Jimmy Hoffa thing. Allows them to control the construction industry, and they really control both sides. And we'll use construction industry as an example. And it's an easy example when it comes to the mob. Controlling the union, one, allows them to exploit the employees. Because if you're an employee, you don't pay your union dues. The mob is skimming off the top of the union dues. The mafia is skimming from the pension plans. The mafia is skimming from employee benefit plans. And the reality is, if you're an employee, if you don't pay your union dues, you don't work. And so the mob controls the employees that way. They say, well, you can pay us, and you can give us give us a cut of your salary, or we'll make sure that you don't find employment. On the opposite hand, control of construction unions also allow the mafia to control the employers. As a mafioso, as a capo, or you may send a member of your crew down to a construction site and tell the foreman, look, you need to give me a cut of this, that, or the other thing, and if you don't pay us, we'll arrange for a strike, and all your workers will go on strike, and you won't be able to get your building constructed. You won't be able to do whatever it is that you're looking to do. And so in that way, the mafia uses unions to control both the workers and the people actually doing the construction. There are certain industries that are more susceptible to labor racketeering than others. It's a fairly long list, but I'll give it to you anyway. Industries susceptible or particularly vulnerable. Trying to find a good lighting position here. I'll just let YouTube fix it. Industries more susceptible to labor racketeering include maritime industries, so shipping, so to speak, surface transportation in the same way that maritime is, construction, I've already mentioned, garment manufacturing, motion picture production. There are several well-known mobsters that were heavily involved in Hollywood. Of course, illegal gambling. They control legal gambling, illegal gambling, particularly through the Hotel Employee and Restaurant Employers International Union, makes it very easy for the mob to control legalized gambling and hotel services, also very susceptible to mafia control. What all does labor racketeering involve other than breaking strikes and causing strikes and extorting money from both employers and employees? Again, it also, as mentioned earlier, it also involves taking money from pension plans. It involves taking money from employee welfare benefit plans. But it also includes loan sharking to employees. It simply works very simply. You're down on your luck. Your credit's not really good. You can't get a bank loan, so you go to your union representative, and he'd be happy to loan you some money. And when I get done talking about labor racketeering, I'll talk about the conditions of that loan. The workplace gambling is usually handled through labor racketeering. Embezzlement, extortion, we've kind of talked about. Just the use of force to obtain money, either for ensuring jobs or ensuring labor peace. Talked about that. Just to give you an example of labor racketeering in action, the Lucchese family, and that's one of your top 5 New York families, made millions soliciting labor peace payoffs for freight forwarding and trunking companies at JFK Airport in New York. They controlled the union management, threatened to have workers strike if payoffs weren't made, and actually used this tool very effectively. At one point, a 5-month strike against Emery Worldwide cost that company $20 million in revenue and actually forced Emery Worldwide into bankruptcy. I remember Emery Worldwide trucks as a competitor to UPS and Federal Express. I don't see them anymore, thanks to the mafia, particularly the Lucchese family. At the same time, those employees of Emery Worldwide and other trucking companies doing business at JFK were required to kick back some of their salary to their so-called union representatives as a way to keep their job. Besides the Lucchese family, the New York families also controlled, just in the city of New York, they control Fulton Fish Market, the Jarvis Convention Center, the air cargo services around JFK. And talk about JFK Airport, even legitimate businesses in the area, not only would they become victims of the mob, sometimes they would become, and not too uncommon, for them to become willing partners with the mafia. Because, when you deal with the mob, you can get labor at a reduced cost. And this allows the mafia to buy stock in a company cheaply. And usually if the mob wants to take over and exploit a company, they'll bait a hook with a struggling company, say, hey, we'll help you out, we'll get you some cheap labor, we'll get you some goods that fall off the back of a truck, and that allows them to buy stock in that company fairly cheaply, at which point they'll inflate the price of the stock somehow, and then make money by selling it all. Or they will do a wonderful thing, they'll come in, they'll loan you money, when you can't pay, they'll start taking your stock, and then they'll just do that until they bleed your company dry. Wonderful people, the mobsters. Well, let's see. The next thing we'll talk about is loan sharking. One of my favorite mafia topics. Simple loaning of money. Gee, I wonder if I can charge Coke for a product placement in these videos. Hey, go ahead and make extra money. Loan sharking, also called usury, or called shylocking. Fairly old crime. William Shakespeare even wrote about Shylock in one of his more famous plays. And if you've ever wondered what a Shylock is, it's a loan shark. Loan sharking is, by definition, loaning money at high interest rates, typically the interest rates that are higher than allowed by law, but not always. Loan sharking allows the mafia to infiltrate businesses that are in financial trouble, and then allows them to take those businesses over and then bleed them dry, like I just talked about a minute ago, when owners can't pay. A researcher named Rauter noted 4 basic elements of loan sharking. 4 things you got to have, or 4 things that. How do I put this? define, or maybe not define, but characterize loan sharking. The first is that the terms of the loan are not recorded. You don't sign a loan contract with a loan shark. It's one of those rare places in the world, in the business world, where a handshake still works. The second trait or element would be the borrower, both the borrower and the lender, believe and understand that the transaction is illegal. People who go to loan sharks are generally not under any illusion that the business is legal. There's no pretending there. Everyone involved knows what the deal is. Third element is that the borrower understands that there will be fiscal consequences if payments are not made, and that's usually made clear up front. If you don't pay with money, you're going to pay some other way. And then the fourth out of four elements is that the interest rates are generally near or above the legal limit. Like I said, they're not always higher than legally allowed, but they're computed a little differently, and so they end up being more. What does it take to be a loan shark? It's an easy business to get into. You need a good, healthy monetary reserve. You got to have money to loan. You need a reputation for violence. You don't necessarily have to be a violent person. You just have to create a reputation, a perception, or persona. People have to believe that if you don't pay them, you're going to hurt them. And then, frankly, you need a client who can't borrow money legally. Because, frankly, if you could get a credit card or if you could get a personal loan from a bank, you would. The only people that go to loan sharks are those that have no choice. And I'm going to try something a little different. I just want to give this, I'm going to see if this works out. I'm going to switch my camera around. See if you can see my screen here. I don't know how well that's going to work. Let's see if we can try it this way. Well, apparently I can't do that while the video's going. Okay, I'll have to figure out some other option here. I want to compare, and I have I'll post this after I post the video. I've got not PowerPoint, but an Excel spreadsheet that I want you to explore. In fact, I'll go in and I'll post it at the same time. It'll be called Loan Sharking, and I'll post it right under this video link. And then if you pull it up, and then I want you to pull it up and look at it while I'm talking. If you can have two screens on your computer. And there are three tabs at the bottom. One's labeled personal loan, one's labeled credit card, and the third one's labeled Shylark. And this is three different types of loans. And so the first tab, personal loan, is an example of a personal loan you might get from a bank. And in this case, I use Chase Bank as my example, which is kind of ironic because one of the things you'll learn in a few weeks is that the Yakuza, the Japanese organized crime syndicate, actually has a great deal of stock in Chase Bank. That's wonderful. I have an account at Chase. Actually, the funny thing is, both the bank I keep all my personal accounts in and the bank my home mortgage is through, both have majority stockholders that are members of the Yakuza. Yay! One of my students in the residential class actually asked a Chase Bank representative about that, and was told, we have lots of stockholders. They apparently didn't want to talk about it. So the first tab is a personal loan. This is an example of a $1,000 personal loan at 5% interest for 12 months. And you'll notice, there's at the very top, there's the first 12 months, And then the column B is the reduction in principal every month, and you see a steady reduction in the principal over time. Then the interest rate stays steady at 5%. You can see how much. Column D actually tells you what your monthly payment is, and so you're looking at $87.50 a month. Not bad. At the end of 12 months, you've paid $1,050 on a $1,000 loan, $50 in interest. The second, after you the bottom part is a pretend scenario. Let's say you made 5 payments, then you missed a couple, and you go back to the bank and you ask them to recalculate the loan, and so the bank says, "Okay, we forgive you, we love you anyway." Recalculates the loan at 6 months from that point out, with a new principal of $593.63 at 5% interest, and you can see for that. $593, you still end up paying $623. Your payments go up a little. Your payments go up to $103.89, and at the end of the 6 months, you end up having paid $1,060.85. And so your penalty in this scenario is you paid an extra $10.85 in interest, and nobody broke your kneecaps. Not bad. Now look at credit cards. I always thought credit cards was legalized loan sharking, but not really that bad. This credit card scenario, and this of course does get a little more complicated. This is based on Capital One's credit cards, and took their information off their website as far as their interest rate. Their interest rate is 6.5% if you have more than $1,000, 10% if you have less, and so. You'll notice that the first month the interest rate is 6.5% and 10% after that. This is a scenario where we have a credit card balance of $1,000, assuming that you make no new charges over 12 months. You'll notice over a 12-month period, other than the first month, the interest rate stays steady. You're paying a minimal amount of interest every month. And you can see what your minimum payment, and this is based on just making the minimum payment every month. You'll notice that over 12 months on a $1,000 loan, if you just make the minimum payment, you will have paid $320 over the course of 12 months. You've only reduced your principal by $214, and you still owe $785. Now, the benefit to this is you have only paid $320 over the course of a year. The downside is you still owe $780 at the end of the year, whereas opposed to the personal loan, your payments are higher, but at the end of 12 months you're done. Now, of course, you can play with this spreadsheet if you'd like. If you can change some of the numbers. In fact, the way I have it programmed in the spreadsheet is if on any given month you can change. The only one should change column F. It's the only one you can really safely change. But that's the amount paid. If you put a 0 in, it will calculate. It will change the payments. It will calculate. It'll calculate late charges and fees and things like that for you. And so you can see. And so you can see the effects on if you miss a payment. You can see effects if you don't pay the full amount. You can see effects as if you pay more than the full amount. You can play around with it. Now the interesting thing is if you pay, let's say if I put in here the amount paid every month, $83, which was your payment on the other loan, remember. If you pay $83 a month every month, just like you did with the personal loan. Okay, so that was 87. So let's make that right. So it's $87.50. Let's try paying $87.50 every month, just like with the personal loan. And let's see, and you can follow along at home and put $87.50 in your amount paid column. And at the end of 12 months, You have paid $1,050 just like you would have with a personal loan. Problem is, you still have a balance of $91. So here's your credit card at a slightly higher interest rate. If you pay the same amount as you pay with a personal loan, you've still got some money left over. But still not bad. Your interest paid is about $141 over the course of the year, as opposed to $50. So you're paying more in interest every month. So go to the last tab along the bottom. That's your Shylock. Now this is a much longer column. You see, the first difference you see is in the payments. The first two tabs considered monthly payments. This is what you would do if you were doing a bank loan or a credit card. You pay once a month. With Shylock, you're not paying once a month. You're paying every week. Like Lucky Luciano used to say, loans by Monday, payable next Monday. And so the idea with a loan shark is, let's say, same scenario, you borrow $1,000 from a loan shark. And let's say this is a generous loan shark. He gives you a loan for 5 points, 5% interest. Just like the bank, certainly not just like the credit card company. So he's giving you a better interest rate than your credit card. Sounds like a great deal, right? Now, the drawback is, you borrow $1,000 at the beginning of week 1. You're responsible for paying the loan shark the entire $1,000 at the next week. A week, 1 week later, 7 days later, you owe the loan shark $1,050. You owe him the whole amount you would have paid with a personal loan, except you owe the whole thing a week later. Now let's say you don't have $1,050 at the end of the week, and that's this. The spreadsheet is set up right now. It's set up assuming that you don't have $1,000. So I don't have $1,050, so you see column F is a pay. It's got a 1 in every one of those columns has a 1 in it. The ones represent yes, you made a payment. Basically, yes, you paid the VIG or the interest. If you want to see what would happen to your loan if you didn't pay the VIG, put a 0 in column F. So let's take this. Look at your spreadsheet. If you've got it open, if you've got Microsoft Excel, you got your $1,000 principal. Let's say 5 weeks pass and you didn't have $1,000, but you paid your VIG. You paid your $50 a week, so you keep the money in play. The loan shark is happy. In fact, the loan shark is ecstatic that you can't pay the whole $1,000. And he doesn't want, a Shylock's not going to want a partial payment. You're going to say, well, I don't have a whole $1,000, I got 500. Loan shark's going to say, I don't want 500, I want 1,000. Give me 50. So if you don't have it all, don't pay me. Just give me the VIG, give me $1,000 next week. And so every week you owe him either $50 or $1,050. If you don't pay the $1,050, you owe him $1,050 the next week. Well, let's say about week 6, let's say you don't even have $50. You don't pay your VIG. So put 1,000 under week 6, and column F for pay, put a 0 instead of a 1. Ooh, that's not good. You'll notice that the very next week, the VIG went up to $5,250. And now, the next Monday, you don't owe $1,050, you owe $1,250. Loan shark probably going to let you go. Well, let's say the next week you don't have. But now he's going to compound the interest again, and now the VIG is $5,513. And every week that you don't pay the VIG gets added to the principal, the VIG gets recalculated, and the next week you owe the principal plus the new VIG. Let's just assume that you go the whole year, and those are the only two times you miss the VIG. Let's say every week you pay your $5,513 after that second week you missed. At the end of a year, you will have paid, instead of $50 in interest like the personal loan, or the $140 in interest like the credit card, you will have paid $2,735.75 in interest. Your final payment that you make to the loan shark would be $1,157.63 for a total 12-month total of $3,838 on a $1,000 loan. That, my friends, is loan sharking. Okay, I got a voicemail I need to check, so I'm going to stop here, and then I will put a part 2 up, and the part 2, and I'll go ahead and post this video, post the spreadsheet that I've been talking about, so you can look at that while you would have looked at that while I talked about the different loan types. Get all that stuff posted, and then I will make part 2 of this week's video, where I will talk about biker gangs and criminal street gangs, and then I'm going to leave prison gangs. I'm not going to talk about prison gangs, but you can read about those on your own. I also recommend if you're interested in prison gangs, go look at, this is what I did in my residential classes, rather than talking about prison gangs. I showed an episode of Gangland about the Texas Syndicate. So you can find those online. Maybe watch a Gangland video about Texas Syndicate or a prison gang. But I'm going to concentrate on my lecture on outlaw motorcycle gangs and criminal street gangs. But I'm going to do that in part 2 of the video. So let me get this stuff posted, and then I'll do part 2.